Good afternoon, folks, and thank you so much for joining us today for Intro to Human Resources. We're excited to host this new session as a part of our Integral Intro series, where we cover foundational areas of nonprofit management. My name is Sandeep, and I am the Manager of Education here at Integral.org. I will be hosting today's session, so you can find me in the chat at any time. We will be using the poll and chat features of Zoom today. So please don't hesitate to drop any comments or questions into the chat as we're moving through today's material. And I'm there to support your participation in that regard as well. So if anything comes up, do send me a direct message and I can kind of help you through any of those challenges. And with regard to your questions, I may acknowledge them with a thumbs up, but if they do go unacknowledged, it's because we're waiting until the Q&A portion to come back and work through some of those questions you're having. So don't feel like you're being ignored or talking into the void. Okay, with all of that, we will move on to our land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that Integral.org is based out of Mohkinstsis, which is the Blackfoot name for elbow. This refers to the confluence of Elbow and Bow rivers that run through Treaty 7 territory. Mohkinstsis is the traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, Piikani, Kainai, as well as the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, consisting of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Métis Nation of Alberta District 5 and 6. We have a long way to go in addressing the tension between the legal and governance structures that we all work within in the nonprofit sector and efforts towards truth and reconciliation. We at Integral.org accept our responsibility to work towards reconciling this tension, and we commit to remaining in a position of humility as we consider our history and current reality, knowing that the answers are not clear and easy ones, yet they require all of us to engage. We all have a connection and responsibility to the lands that host our lives, our communities, and our work. With that, I would like to welcome our facilitator for today's session, Mariana Nimara. Mariana is a seasoned HR consultant and people first strategist with 15 plus years of experience in the nonprofit and HR sectors. As principal consultant and founder of Thrive Consulting Services, she helps mission driven organizations strengthen their teams, improve recruitment and retention, and create inclusive, resilient workplace cultures. Holding the CPHR and the Society of Human Resources Management designations, as well as a certification in organizational change management, Mariana specializes in designing practical, scalable HR strategies that align with organizational and community needs. She's passionate about supporting leaders to build supportive, sustainable, and legally sound workplaces where teams can thrive. Welcome, Mariana. I will pass it over to you to get us started for today's session.
Thank you very much, Sandeep, for introduction, and thank you everyone for attending our workshop today. This session is intended to be kind of a practical one, not giving you too much theory. Of course, we don't have time; it's a limited time session. But just to share with you some ideas, then you can take them with you and tailor them based on your internal um, dynamics of the organization. So this is our intention today. So we'll go to defining human resources, why HR matters for nonprofit success. We'll go through Alberta specific HR requirements, key HR function for nonprofits, HR challenges for nonprofits. Then we'll talk a little bit about top HR trends in 2025. And we'll end up with practical tips and resources as well, and a Q&A session. So then we'll continue our discussion with this quote. Great vision without great people is irrelevant. And we'll do that because, in a nutshell, HR, it's about people. It's everything about people. We can have beautiful strategic plan, we can have fund development plans, we can talk a lot about mission and vision and stuff. But if you don't have the right people, and most importantly, if we don't engage them and retain them, none of this gets implemented effectively and sustainably. Let's continue with a quick visualization here. Imagine an organization where everyone feels valued, supported, and motivated, and they know what's expected. They get support when the challenges come, and everything you would say it's a kind of a usual thinking, and I'm hearing you, but actually it's what good HR practices can offer an organization. And it's not only about forms and check boxes, even it's about that, but it's um, creating an environment where everyone feels supported and feels they belong. And then maybe we'll do a little poll about what's the most challenging HR issue for our organization today. Could be recruitment and retention, could be burnout and mental health, lack of formal HR infrastructure, remote and hybrid work challenges, or if you have any other kind of suggestions, please. Uh, please mention them in the chat, and Sandeep will help us to uh, to
Okay.
summarize the top results.
So the polls are rolling in. We'll let folks respond for a minute more here. Not a minute, maybe a few more seconds. Okay. Okay. We're going to share the results here. So it looks like lack of formal HR infrastructure at 50% for folks is the leading issue or challenge, followed closely by burnout and mental health, and then recruiting and retention, with the hybrid work challenges as the last.
As being excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. That's pretty much what we have on this poll, and how you kind of ranked everything is pretty much they're the main challenges the HR teams or half teams they have in the nonprofit sector. And hopefully today we can learn about some ways to help us with our work and our challenges. So, what is human resources? Of course, there are so many definitions out there. But as we mentioned, it's everything about people. And this definition we have here on these slides like breaks all the HR functions in four action items, like the finds, the supports, the grows, and the protects. And the finds, of course, it's about, how we have the employment kind of plans, and we create the job ads and post them, and we have make first contacts with our potential candidates and stuff like that. Then it comes the supports. We have all our policies and procedures and systems in place to support our people. And then we have the growth component, where it comes with training and development and mentorship as well, and coaching and all of those engagement instruments as well. And then we have the protects, where we have, of course, the occupational health and safety policies, code of conduct, and things like that. Why HR matters for our sector and our success. So, human resources, or if you prefer, people and culture, there are so many other terminologies out there. So, of course, feel free to use whatever you prefer. But they translate in outcomes, clarity, retention, and funders' trust. And when it's about outcomes, Imagine like HR being the foundation of a house, and maybe keep this analogy in mind for later of the house and HR being the foundation. So it's where HR keeps teams stable and focused, right? And everything feels they are protected. And then with the policies, the practices, the systems we have in place, we offer clarity, right? And avoid the confusion and of course the legal risks. Then about retention, of course, it's about both staff and volunteers. And in general, when we'll talk about HR, we'll have in mind an integrated approach, staff and volunteers, um, kind of for both kind of segments. And with retention, here we can be so creative, and there are so many ways to tailor these strategies. Some organizations, for instance, they cut turnover in half just by introducing the check-ins, and those could be uh, some of the organization they do them even daily between the supervisor and the employee or the volunteer. They can be weekly, they can be monthly, and stuff like that. Instead, to have just formal annual reviews and nothing in between. And then when it's about the funders trust, funders increasingly they are asking about good HR practices, due diligence in these aspects, and well-being policies and stuff like that. So it's a good best practice to have everything in place. And it's not only the funders trust, but it is the community trust. It's our supporters trust, our clientele trust, and general public as well. Then we'll talk a little bit about specific HR requirements in our province. We have the Employment Standards Code, of course, and I know everyone is familiar with those standards. They set rules for hours, overtime, vacation, and termination, and we have the links for this. It's a good thing to have a copy always saved on our computer to be handy and always refer to the standards when it's about hours, overtime, vacation, termination, what they mandate in our province. Then you have occupational health and safety, and this one ensures nonprofits provide a safe and healthy workplace. When it's about occupational health and safety, just to maybe see based on the size of the organization, if you are at the lower kind of end, then you probably are okay with just occupational health and safety coordinator. If you are a larger organization, then you will need a employer-employee committee for occupational health and safety at each and every location. And then we have Alberta Human Rights Act, and this one protects individuals from discrimination in specific protected area and grounds. It's always good to keep in mind all those area and grounds when we develop our initiatives and our policies to avoid any kind of discrimination. And then we have Workers' Compensation Board, where the nonprofit can offer workers' coverage. But when it's about the coverage, based on your organization, if you are volunteer based and you have volunteers involved in frontline and program delivery, will be a good practice to offer them coverage as well. And now we'll talk about some main HR functions for nonprofits. We won't go, as I said, into many details, just to offer you an overview glance of some of the main ones. And of course, we have recruitment and onboarding. And when it's about recruitment, writing clear, engaging jobs and volunteer postings, that's an essential element. And of course, moving towards mission focused language to attract the people we need, that's other kind of important stuff. So, moving from, please move from that from rockstar, ninja, and unicorn, and this type of terminology toward more inclusive, like communicating with a diverse communities, kind of this type of language. And then the other thing is to be transparent about the salary range. And I know it's not mandated in our provinces at this point, but it is in Ontario. So, and when you have situations like this, maybe it's a trigger for us to understand it's a good practice to implement something in our organization as well. And it's not only about protecting our organization from legal perspectives, but it's as well when we post the salary range on our ad, it says, it signals transparency, right? And says something about the culture and how we value people. And then including diversity, equity, inclusion practices in our hiring from the stage of recruitment and continuing with the other stages. That's another kind of important thing to keep in mind. And when it's about recruitment as well, having structured interview questions is it's very helpful. Start with five ones, and score 1 to 5, and then create more elaborated ones for each and every position. So onboarding as well, it comes with all the checklists. Would be very instrumental for our work, the ones for the first week, and as well the ones for uh, like at the end of the first month kind of review. Keep in mind, they say people, they decide if they'll stay with us in the first 30 days. I would say it's even sooner than that. So those recruitment and onboarding stages are very important for the first impression. And now the 30-day check-in, of course, the time to ask what's clear, what's confusing, what do you need, and capture the feedback, like document. That's another element about good HR practices. Document everything for reference, but not only to collect data, to collect feedback, because we cannot just build HR structures and policies and initiatives just assuming we know what's the best for our employees or for volunteers. We have to involve them in the process and ask them, and sometimes being honest, I don't know. So if you can please tell me how we can help, then you can go um, from there. Um, the first impressions are important, right? So all of these are important components, and all the introduction to culture and tours and all the internal things will look different from one organization to other. And of course, clarify the expectation and roles and build up on the recruitment stage. The offboarding it's important as well. So the last impression it's important. So make sure you have some checklist about whatever needs to be done, and then thanking them publicly and privately. And that's for everything in human resources. And now we can be so creative with social media, with the newsletters, with the employee and volunteer board. So feel free to tailor those thanks based on your needs. And having an exit chat, or we can call it so many different ways, but just a time to sit with the employee and the volunteer to ask some questions like, what did you enjoy? What frustrated you? Any advice for the next person? And collect the data and feedback, and not just collect it, use it to identify workload issues, training gaps, and stuff like that. And make sure the transfer knowledge as well piece, we have it in our hand, and we have how to for each and every role. And would be good even to have it in the recruitment stage to help us with the job ads, and as well to be handed out in the onboarding first day with the job description. Now, when we talk about the all the function, everything we do in HR. It's so important to talk about the leadership and culture because that's an important component. And culture isn't a poster, right, or something, it's a written something on a wall. It's how we feel each and every day, each and every Monday, even Fridays, even after work. And then the leadership, it's remember the analogy with the house from the beginning, with the HR being the foundation. The leadership, it's like the thermostat of the house. It sets the temperature each and every day. And another thing to keep in mind is not only about formal leadership, it's about the informal leadership. So you have to know who are our informal leaders and why people they get influenced by that, right? And what values those peoples are there so much aligned with our people. And we all remember the line people have manager or leave managers, not organizations. We know how in nonprofits they could translate uh, in stalling a whole program and stuff like that when things like that happen. So that's extremely important. And when it's about the leadership and culture, of course, there are so many micro behavioral kind of things. We'll talk in a second about those. But as well, we need to keep in mind what make us alike, right? Because nowadays, like we all value flexibility, right? And right to disconnect. So those are important. Right to disconnect again. It's not mandated in Alberta yet, but it is in other provinces. So it's a good practice to analyze how our practices, not necessarily the written policies, how our practices in the day-to-day life are implemented and what messages we offer to our employees and volunteers after their shifts, after they end up work. Or if they are required to just answer the emails until midnight just because a random manager does that just because maybe they function differently than others. But there are differences, and those are important in our work as well. And the generational differences are an important element. So, for instance, learning more about the Generation Z, they value purpose, flexibility, skills. So, of course, allowing hybrid work, short stretch projects. So this will be good things for them. Millennials values work-life balance. So then, and growth. So a simple career path and flex Fridays. So that will be for them. Generation X, they would like more to have project ownership and personal wellness days, and the boomers as well, they value legacy stability, so mentorship roles, those will be good for them. Phased retirement or part-time projects, and thanking them for the tenure, they are good things to use. Then talking about those practical micro behaviors, so what we do in our each and every second in our work, and on some levels, all of us are leaders, right? So celebrate efforts in front of peers and save our mentorship and coaching for one-on-one. It's an example. Model vulnerability, it's other important thing, celebrating learning, not just results. And this is not very used, unfortunately. So when someone attempts like to learn a new platform or participate as a get a certain certification, we need to get used to applaud these efforts, not just the end results. And then open door policy, like block a recurring 30 minutes slot where any staff or volunteers can pop physically or virtually with ideas and concerns. Those will be kind of some suggestions for you to tailor based on your needs. And for those, we know no budget is required, just our intentions behind any action. And then we'll talk a little bit about another important function, the volunteer management. Of course, as we said, it's an integrated approach of staff and volunteers when it's about HR for nonprofits. But they do have different motivations, schedules, and legal considerations, and the way we reward them, right? It's important as well. But of course, they have the right to be screened and matched as employees have. They need orientation and clear structure and job descriptions as well. Tracking volunteer hours is another thing to keep in mind because they need the hours as well. Sometimes they ask for this, and we have to know as an organization how many hours we use for our programs and like building budgets and grants and grant application and stuff like that, and celebrate contribution. And again, we don't need necessarily to assume we know how to thank our volunteers. It's always to involve them in the conversation. Surveys, pulse surveys, they are so used these days. Informal meetings, get the feedback, how they like to be thanked. Sometimes they don't like to be thanked in like very expensive ways because they consider they volunteer for nonprofits and nonprofits shouldn't spend that much money on those. So those are kind of some things to keep in mind, and always keep the volunteers in the front of our mind when we create any type of instruments. For instance, Sign Up Genius. Use this platform to as an engagement platform as well because they can choose their roles. It's a two clicks away. It's a user friendly, and they get empowered by choosing the time and the shifts they help us with. And they can be powerful ambassadors out there for us. That's another kind of thing. Because as well, they can be donors, they can be supporters, and employees. They are as well. They can be powerful ambassadors. And when when employment ends up, it's important to build a relationship with our employees to translate into becoming volunteers. Then we have the performance and conflict management piece, where check-ins regularly are so crucial, not waiting for the situations to come. And then using simple tools like monthly one-on-ones or three-question review. Those monthly check-ins could be what's going well, what's difficult, what support do you need, and as well, when it's about performance and feedback, recognition has a prime role. Then there are so many things in terms of engaging and getting feedback. We can use some organization they use start, stop, and continue kind of quarterly at the staff volunteer meetings. What we should start, what should stop, what should continue, and summarize those things. And again, using those as a data. Then we have the 30-day new hire review. So we can ask what's clear, what surprises you, what one improvement do you suggest? And we can use the feedback to fix the onboarding gaps as well. When it's about the conflict resolution, of course, we have maybe a 48-hour window to address the issue. So very early, we need to address it respectfully and privately. We have to use neutral language and a neutral location in person or virtual, right? And seek understanding. I mean, let people to express first their thinking about the situation, and let them come up with the solutions on their own. Don't just offer the solutions to them. because in this way they are part of the solutions from the beginning. And then have a simple basic procedure for the mediation would be a good practice as well to identify the issue, of course, and as well have some private chats with the parts involved, and as well having the mediation um, and then a follow up and documentation pieces involved as well. And in terms of the mediation, like training a person in the mediation procedures, it's a good practice. Like could be uh, a board member, like an HR lead from the board,
Hi.
or could be the executive director.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Sorry about that. I've muted the participant. I think that was an accident.
Oh no,
Yep.
sorry. Okay, now we'll move to the healthy, safety, and well-being as another HR function. We'll talk a little bit about. And this is about establishing secure work environments. And here we have the occupational health and safety checklist, the ergonomic setups. We have the emergency plans and the risk management plans and stuff like that for fire, for medical situation, for severe weather. And a good practice is to run a biannual drills for this, because remember, we can have lovely plans and emergency plans and stuff like this, but we have to remember under the stress, we don't know what to do. And then the chaos can just appear out of the sudden. So then we have the mental health support, and of course, we have the employee assistance programs that are helpful in this segment. The stress check-ins, link them with the check-ins, the daily or monthly or weekly check-ins, and make them part of the mentorship kind of programs we create, and that would be useful for our employees and volunteers. And of course, the wellness and the personal days, they are the good examples as well. And having an incident report procedure, like very clear for our employees and staff, who reports to whom, who reports for WCB in case it's a situation, and we have to submit the claim right away, and things like that. And then this type of environments, like keeping everyone safe and healthy, it's protects our people, right? And keep them engaged, and as well our organization, it's legally protected at the same time. Now we'll go over some common challenges and some do it ourselves kind of um, fixes to help us in our work. And of course, we had at the beginning with our poll listed some of the challenges. And it's so true, recruitment retention, it's one important one. We know the difficulty attracting qualified staff due to limited budgets, right? We all know that. Burnout and mental health, again, it's so important. Just because we wear multiple hats, and I've been there in those shoes, right? And I know you are wearing multiple hats as well, working in nonprofits, and those situations could lead to higher stress. And then we have the lack of formal HR infrastructure, when you have no dedicated human resources and no policies in place. Then we have the volunteer management, managing expectation and boundaries between staff versus volunteers, legal and compliance risk when we face gaps in policies, harassment, health and safety, things like that, leadership gaps and succession planning. When you have our funders, ADDs stretched too thin, and we don't have succession planning pieces in place, and remote and hybrid work challenges when we have no clear policies or tools to manage hybrid teams. So some elements we can use, for instance, if it's a situation of no written job descriptions, there are so many templates and for policies as well out there, and we'll share some resources with you today. So there are ways to for us to fix some of these and have job description and the main policies in place using those templates. Onboarding situations, if we have all those checklists in place, we have everything needs to be done from day 1 to day 30. That's an important a piece for the onboarding as well. um, when you face policy confusions and we don't know, and or we are at the beginning and we don't have all the policies in place, so just start small with a mini employee handbook, just 2 pages where we put a code of conduct, the harassment statement, hours and leave basics, uh, benefits, and things like that. And using plain language and put the links to employment standards will help as well. In terms of burnout signs, for instance, blocking one no meeting afternoon, some organizations they do that on Fridays, right? Or some of them they offer Fridays off in the summer. Not talking about the ones introducing the 4 weekdays, and seeing an increase in the performance, mental health, and stuff like that. Then, for the lack of salary data, if we pull 3 similar job ads from Charity Village, which is specifically for nonprofits, then we'll get an understanding about the salary range, and we can post it and be transparent about it and be in the market range. And of course, in terms of documentation and HR files, now we have so many clouds, right? And out there could be helpful for, and so many platforms, Google Drive and OneDrive, and we work with all of this, right? But in terms of kind of um, tackling some of those challenges, like these elements of talking and connect regularly. Just because engaged employee and volunteers, even if there are challenges in our organization, they still be feeling they belong and they are protected, right? Those could be a practical kind of things to implement, and the recognition, like thanking them publicly, as I mentioned, and privately, that will boost retention and engagement. And planning from people leaving, having those succession plans or pieces in place, that's helpful in our work, and it's helpful for our teams as well, and keeping them not confused, and um, uh, giving them ways to continue their work after someone leaving our organization. So those plans, they don't need to be too elaborated, just a simple backup plan to have a plan for each and every key volunteer role and volunteer and key volunteer or staff roles would be sufficient. And now we'll move towards talking a little bit about the HR trends for nonprofits. This year and probably the coming years, we'll still see those trends in people-centered leadership. Like teams want leaders who listen, support, coach, not just manage, be mentors. So That's a trend is gonna stay a lot with us, and I think that's actually the way it should be. HR and any other kind of organizational things, and that as well give us an idea about when we promote managers in the leadership roles to make sure they have the support needed and they're trained and they have peer support groups and stuff similar with this. Then flexible work and hybrid is another trend. Um, Hybrid models actually now are expected even in the nonprofit, and some researchers they say they will be soon not optional. And of course, they set some competitive advantage. That's another thing to keep in mind, right? And equity, inclusion, and diversity that's not an add-on anymore. It must be embedded in pretty much everything we do, from hiring to policy, and we can use small steps to transition from intention to actions. Like, for instance, right in the recruitment stage, we can post our jobs with different disability organizations and create collaborations with them. Some of them, they might have employment programs, or post our ads on newcomers kind of boards. Those would be elements, or allowing um, different alternative resume kind of formats, LinkedIn profiles, and as well recorded resumes. Those will be another ideas. Burnout prevention and mental health. We know how important this one is, especially for small teams juggling too much, as we have in our sector. And of course, there are different ways to prevent that, but um, keeping the employee and volunteers engaged, and make sure we look at the workloads and at the policies and right to disconnect. Those will be helpful for us to analyze. Skill-based hiring, that's another thing we can see as a trend. So it's moving from degrees and qualifications kind of focus towards more skills and potential and lived experience kind of thing. Um, then, when we talked about the data-driven HR, we discussed a little bit today about the importance of data and how we can collect data from pretty much everything, and need to be intentional to collect the data, because other than that, probably whatever we build won't be kind of built sustainably. So even simple platforms can save time, like having uh, volunteer tracking kind of platforms, right? Those will be good, or client CRMs, and all those platforms are very good tools. Then the employment branding, and that I would say goes hand in hand with leadership and culture and those other pieces, because it's not only what we declare, it's what it feels, right? And that could be for our clients too, even if they are not our, or the general public, even if they are not our employee and volunteers, how the culture and how the brand is translated into day-to-day kind of thing, and what signals that. But regardless, the employees, they need to know why they should work here, and for us to pay attention to those messages. It's important to attract the top candidates and retain them and engage them. Now we'll do another quick poll. What's the one HR action you'll start this month? Either will be create a day one onboarding checklist, launch monthly question check-ins, set up a volunteer thank you plan, block a no meeting wellness afternoon, or feel free to share in the chat if you have any other suggestion. And of course, Sandeep will help us with this and will give you
Mhm.
uh, some time.
Few more seconds for folks to pop in their answers. We did have a question come up in the chat, Mariana, about the 3 questions check-in. And so I've noted we'll circle back to that in the Q&A just to talk a little bit more about what that can look like. Okay, so poll results are in. I'm just going to share them here. So we have a tie for launch monthly 3 questions check-in and set up a volunteer thank you plan, closely followed by a block a no meeting wellness afternoon. And then we have create a day one onboarding checklist with other, share in the chat as marked off here, but I'm not seeing a comment. So if that was you, if you want to share in the chat, I'll keep an eye out for you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, then we'll address some of the questions right in the Q&A if we have them already. And then we'll just sec. Now we'll just talk a little bit, just to allow enough time at the end to have for the Q&A segment. We have the HR resources we can use here, and there are, as I mentioned, a number of HR templates and guides. Imagine Canada HR resources, they're great. I volunteer Imagine Canada, they're so great advocates. I help them with the standards. So they have the HR intervals, free HR toolkit. Feel free to check it, and we have tons of information there to use. Volunteer Alberta HR toolkit. It's called HR intervals as well. It's about free policies, recruitment, performance templates, and the nonprofit chamber, the former CCPO, they have free HR resources as well. And I think in July this year, the government they launched another platform, employer support group, and their job description templates, templates, succession planning, and there are tons of information out there. It's at avis.alberta.ca. In terms of job boards, of course, we have Indeed, right? But as well, we have um, reachhire.ca, where it's about paid job postings, but we can use small budgets specifically for hard to hire kind of um, jobs and ads, for instance, social work and leadership roles. And Charity Village as well, they have paid job postings specifically for nonprofits, and Government of Canada, they have the job bank as a free resource. But again, be creative and collaborate with other organizations to post your ads or place them in their newsletters and stuff like that. That's another kind of resource out there. And then support as well. We have TechSoup Canada with discounted technology tools, and LinkedIn for nonprofits, free resource and discounted products as well. But the other thing, because the other thing is like in the HR or people in culture, what we prefer. There are some things they could happen each and every day, and it's not something to. I mean, the main things we think they'll stay the same, but to be to be keeping up with the updates, like newsletters featuring HR articles and resources are good instruments as well. Charity Village, Imagine Canada, the Nonprofit Chamber, CPHR Alberta, those are like great examples. And of course, feel free to subscribe to them, and I'm sure you'll get tons of information. And sometimes reach out to those organizations as well if you do have some question, and I'm sure they'll give you some directions. And now we'll have our Q&A section just to give us some time. We'll have 10 minutes. In case we don't have time, everyone, to answer all those questions, then Sandeep will collect them and will send you answers as a follow-up in the next little while. So um, even if we'll stop the session at one point, you leave here with the confidence we'll get back to you.
Perfect, Mariana. So we do have some questions rolling in here in the chat. We'll circle back to that question about the 3-question review. This participant is just asking if you could elaborate on that a little bit more.
The check-in, kind of 30-day check-in, probably that was the one. So
it says 3-question review. I think we've talked about it.
Yeah, that's the when we talk about the 30 days. So I mean, again, that was just an example. So we can tailor it for our needs, right? It's not black and white and written in stone. But basically, it's to have a chat about what was clear, so what's going well, right? What is not that clear, and they will need support, right? Um, and um, and what type of support they need. So that those are like some elements, but kind of in general. But if you feel you have to have 4 questions, go ahead, or 5. But short things probably will be better. So I would say that's the just because those are in general, if of course they are intentional and they are meaningful, and then we can start the conversation, right? And people they will leave having the confidence, they'll get the support, and they had a voice to express their kind of issues.
Thank you. The next question we have here in the chat, I think this one came up briefly in the registration questions as well. Do you have any resources or ideas related to contract workers? As a small nonprofit, all of my team are hourly contractors, except me. What resources do you have that may help me understand when to move them from contract work to salaried staff? What are some considerations for determining equitable contract rates given there are no benefits, paid holidays, etc.?
Already, thank you for those questions. So in terms of transitioning from contract to employee, so there are a couple of considerations. So the first one will be to make sure we follow the employee loan standards code in terms of because that one sets the overtime, right? And there are some limits, no more than 8 hours a day or 44 in a week, whatever comes first. Other than that, they will need to be paid 1.5, right? Alternatively, we have specific overtime agreements. So that would be the best thing to do. And then they can bank the time 1.5, and then they can use it at another time and design the agreements to be very clear. Now, to understand when is the time to move from contractors to the paid staff, it's mostly moving from more flexible project-based kind of things to more permanent kind of situation. So when we move them, we need to look at the budgets as well and make sure we have them for longer term, right? And again, looking at the supervision piece as well, that one is in place because for contractor, they don't need supervision. And actually, even it's a best practice not to do that because then will be a conflict with CRA. CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, has an elaborated kind of explanation on what's the contractor and what's the employee. So I would say check that one to make sure you follow those. Because the contractor, for instance, it's more independent, they can work with multiple kind of contracts. They don't have necessarily a set time. Again, they don't use our equipment, they don't use our facility, they don't use, and they don't run the general operational kind of type of activities. So make sure it's no conflict in there and they come to our facility, use our things, and they come 8 5 and uh, because then you would face like the situation to pay back the CPP and all the other employment kind of taxes. And will be some other legal implications. So I would say having clear over time kind of agreements that would be a good practice about that, and check the CRA for more like the difference between contracts and employees.
Lovely. Thank you. Next question here is, I've heard it said before that HR protects the employees on the surface, but their true job is to protect the company. Have you heard this idea before? And what are your thoughts
Um,
on this?
Yeah, I heard it, but I don't necessarily agree with that because we are talking today about good HR practices.
Hmm.
Like that situation you guys describe it, they are not good practices, whatever it's happening in there. And unfortunately, there are unfortunate situations, and sometimes, yeah, the organizations or the employees or the volunteers, they need to find different ways to voice out these type of situations, right? About
Hmm.
their organizations. But no, the HR or whatever we call it shouldn't just protect the organizations. They need to protect employees, volunteers, the people first, and the organization because they're part of the organization at the same time. But no, I
Hmm.
would say, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a saying. It's just based on some maybe random kind of situations and cases.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that would be my perspective. And the other thing, if you are in the HR role and for some reasons you land in the organizations uh, facing this type of situations, yeah, just look for the ways um, to uh, to talk about those situations, right,
Mhm.
and share them.
Great, Mariana, thank you. So we have a couple more minutes. We have one more question here. I will share it with you now. In sport organizations, staff and coaches often work evenings, weekends, and very long days during events. If we were to track every single hour worked and provide equivalent time off, many organizations would struggle to manage the workload and cost. How can HR balance compliance with labor standards and the reality of sport while still protecting staff well-being? So if you feel like it's a pretty specific question and tailored to a
Yeah, and
subsector.
I think it's we still have 1 minute. I will touch base quickly on this one. I think it's linked with the other one with overtime kind of things.
Mhm,
In a way, I would say it's still our due diligence to track the hours.
mhm,
So it's not an. I mean, you can't just say we didn't have time and we don't have resources. It's better to do a little bit less on a day, but find some ways to track the hours. So again, be creative and use some platforms or let them engage the volunteers to track the hours, right? or the employees. I mean, like there are different ways to do that, but we have to have those in place. That would be
Mhm.
my suggestion, because it's not only about tracking hours, but like when we know the hours, we know how we do our work, we use them on reporting. uh, they need the number of hours for different reasons, and we have to reward them even if it's overtime and even if it's paid. So and for the volunteers will be something similar, but the reward is similar, it's different, sorry.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, folks, for all of your questions. And Mariana, thank you so much for taking the time to go through these with us. I'm just going to move our slide over here. Give me a sec. Lovely. Okay. Well, that was it for today's session. Thanks so much again for spending the last hour with us and going through this conversation. Um, when we host our workshops, it's always great to hear from you folks about how the experience went for you and if your education needs were met, how we can improve, any of your thoughts, really. And so I'm going to drop a link to a feedback survey in the chat for you now. It'll take a couple of minutes for you to click through and offer some insight. It's very helpful for us as Integral Org to know this just in terms of the type of education topics we're offering across the board, but it's also very beneficial for our facilitators who take the time to put together these sessions for you. And so we do review every single response, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending our session today. Hope I'll see you at the other HR session in the future, and I wish everyone a great rest of the day.
Lovely. That segues right into this next piece here. Sometimes the questions that you have may need a more in-depth conversation about your organization. And so for more specific support, we encourage you to access one of our free problem-solving services. These are typically a short phone or video consultation or a 1-hour problem-solving session called a clinic. And these meetings happen between your team and one of our Integral Org experts. Clinics and consultations are a part of our mission to educate and support Alberta nonprofits. So we are here to help. You can find more about how to access one of these supports by visiting our website or giving us a call. I do see a comment here from Tatiana about the link not working for the survey. Is that what you're referring to? If that is the case, you'll also get a link in the post-session email. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see there. Thank you so much for catching that. Yeah, we'll make sure that we review what that link and what that is about in the post-session email. That'll include the recording of the session and the resources, and so you'll have a chance to click and offer some feedback at that point as well. Okay. I appreciate the screenshot there. That's very helpful for us as we troubleshoot that. Okie dokie. See another comment here from Lindsay, just reiterating that. So we'll make sure we address that in the post-session email. Integral Org is a capacity builder and nonprofit ourselves, and our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and support to do your best work. And so we work in a number of different core areas, including governance, strategic planning, risk management, legal compliance, financial management, leadership development, and more. And we work with nonprofits at any stage of their life cycle using a multidisciplinary approach to address your most pressing concerns. And so our job is to help you carry out your vision and mission, and we're only a phone call or email away. And we're always open to chat and figure out how we can best support you. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us and
Thank you,
taking the
everyone.
time out of your day. Yeah, and thank you, Mariana. And folks, yeah, I will be sure to send all of the resources and the post-session email and another link that will work in terms of the feedback survey.